A few weeks ago, Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic released, and I took a shot at turning some of the main antagonists into singing monsters, as these are both games that I enjoy. And that was supposed to be it, just one video, but you guys made it very clear that you wanted a part 2. Just look at some of the comments I got. We'll be here all day at that pace, so let's speed it up. So how's it going? Nova here, and in this video, I will be turning more Secret of the Mimic antagonists into my singing monsters. But before we begin, if you did miss part 1, I'd recommend going back and checking it out, as I created the island design and first batch of monsters in that video. If you go on to enjoy the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing, and thank you for 200,000 subscribers. I may or may not be working on something for that. And hey, if you want to show my channel further support, check out my Patreon in the description below. Patrons get to see these videos up to a week early as well as ad-free. Now let's recap what happened last video and check out which character will be turned into a monster first. And once again, spoiler warning, as the characters in this video are from the later half of the game. Quick recap. We started off by working our way into the costume manor and through the beginning of the game until we meet our first big threat after the elephant, being Jackie, who I turned into an accordion bellowed clown monster. One chase later, we worked our way through the workshop to get to Big Top's showroom, where we accordingly meet Big Top, who became Maestromon, a robotic one-man band monster whose name comes from the fan-given Big Top name Maestro Man. Deeper into the game we find many Mycelium Man costumes, who we then turned into Tambelium. This fun guy can shake their huge toadstool head to create the sounds of a tambourine. And the final character from part 1 was Sleepy Moon, who became Lunaby. I don't have any footage of Sleepy Moon, but I did spot this cool poster. And with the recap over, let's continue exploring to find out which character is next. After passing through the Mycelium costumes, we finished building the Pirate Captain Springlock suit. We won't be turning them into a monster, but I did enjoy shooting the Mimic with them. We sit through this pirate show and watch it collapse, which brings us to the first animatronic we'll be looking at today, Nurse Dollie. Okay, so like always, I'll begin by concepting what the design could look like. And right away, I think an important detail to note is how much more robotic and animatronic-like Nurse Dollie is, compared to the other costumes that the Mimic wears. So this could be a fun detail to carry over into our monster design. If you couldn't already tell, then I may be doing a bad job, but the Dollie monster is going to be a robotic Pommelie member. I know the Pommelie members have appeared on my channel quite a lot recently, but something about this green robotic Pommelie member feels like they not only represent Nurse Dollie well, but they also feel like they would fit in with our existing cast really well. And here's the finished concept. Let's start rendering this. Well, before I can render, I need the sprites to draw onto. I've slowly stopped showing this part of the process in videos, as it's really the same thing every time, so I will leave it up to you guys to decide. Do you want me to go into more depth with how I shape out sprites? Or do you not mind me skipping over this section briefly? Let me know in the comments. Since this is the 5th Pommelie member that I've made recently, I feel much more confident when it comes to drawing them. From the fur, to the arms and legs, and to the facial features. Practice does make improvement after all. So if there's a style you're trying to achieve, or you just want to get better at drawing something, practice drawing that. By trying to draw it, you gain the experience needed to look back and improve. I feel like Nurse Dollie giving out all of this advice, but more therapeutic. And how's the Wobox Hexcope going for you? Good? I personally like to start drawing the head of each monster I make, so I'm currently rendering things like the eyes, cheeks and hair to start off with. And I think style-wise, it's looking quite accurate. And we can blame any inaccuracies to them just being a robot. I also just realised that this monster is a mimic itself. A robot mimicking a Pommelie monster. I'm going to pretend that was intentional. Also, I do think this monster is the best looking Pommelie monster I've made, in terms of rendering and accuracy to the style of Pom Pom and Hula. The leg fur in particular has that sketchy, scratchy look the older monsters have. Also, you may have noticed this hatch in the middle of the monster. This opens up to reveal a heart, which will contribute to the monster's sound. Meet Dodo, a robotic nurse Pommery monster. Tasked with assisting monsters with injuries and health issues, Dodo seems to only have caused more harm than good. Being a robot comes with the challenge of not having emotion, nor understanding it. Does Dodo know when a monster is happy? No. Does Dodo know when a monster is in pain? Also no. To Dodo, there is practically no difference between these two emotions. Dodo has a voice box able to mimic sounds. And of the sounds that it's heard, they decided to mimic an organ? Now that I'm thinking about it, nurses and doctors deal with organs. I didn't really plan that, but we're going to pretend that I did. To complement this sound, they come equipped with a stomach hatch which opens up to reveal a beating heart, which then beats along to whatever song the Showmon crew are singing. Also, this monster is 2x2 in size. Let's check out their sounds. Before we go on to the next monster, I want to thank my patrons for showing their support and helping me be able to make these videos. And thank you Easy23 in particular for naming Dodo. And while we're here, I also went back and changed one of Big Top's tracks to include the Tickets Please line, as this was also heavily requested. So let's check that out.
Tickets please. Tickets please.
After fending off Nurse Dollie for a while, and I mean a while, she just kept coming back. We get to finally move on to the next part of the game. We sneak through the warehouse avoiding this Chica's Party World mascot, which looks awesome by the way, and move towards the admin wing, where we meet the next character that will be turning into a monster. I lied, it's Chica again. Okay, we finally made it. White Tiger is who we'll be doing next. We meet White Tiger in the tunnels under the manor, and they make their I almost said paranormal. And they and they make their paranormal abilities quite present throughout this section. I didn't want to make this monster a ghost and call it a day, so unfortunately, I think the paranormal aspect of this character will have to sit aside for their monster counterpart. But I did want to make this monster seem strange in its appearance, so I was messing around with how the eyes could look. I thought it would look cool and spooky if the tiger stripes on their face opened up into eyes, you know, like the pattern on birch trees. I also recreated the guitar that Tiger Rock is holding in the Tales of the Pizzaplex book cover. This monster has a lot more going on than Dodo, especially in terms of sprites. I spent a lot more time laying out the sprites with this one, so let's skip ahead. Once again, I've started by rendering the head first, and I noticed how much I like this purple and cream colour scheme. A nice way to separate this from the original tiger costume, which is black and white. I will speed up this part as I'm just drawing the monster's fur for a while. But in terms of style, I decided to go for more of a simplistic look to the fur. Unlike Dodo, whose fur is more reminiscent of older monsters' fur, being more sketchy. I think this was a good choice too, considering how much fur this monster has, and adding in these purple stripes is going to really bring this monster together. Like I said before, I wanted the eyes to kind of grow from these stripes, similar to the patterns on a birch tree. Onto the guitar. I feel like the guitar looked a little basic for White Tiger, even on the book's front cover. So I very simply gave it some ears and a feline nose to make it look more tiger-like. Meet Tigertar, a guitar-playing tiger monster. This large 3x3 beast is actually no beast, but instead a big softie, as long as you don't stare directly into their eyes. They're self-conscious. This feline friend of the Showman crew carries around a big green... This feline friend of the Showman crew carries a huge pink guitar around, and strums to their heart's content. This strumming may seem simple at first, but these sounds really help to fill up and build the background of each song that they sing. Their trusty guitar also sports some feline features like a nose and ears, and a nose is something that Tigertar doesn't even have. Is Tigertar really a tiger? Thank you to Slimer for animating this monster, and let's check out how they sound. And that's it. We return the schematics and are ready to leave. So we get into our van and drive home, until this happens. We're given our first proper look at this version of the Mimic, and it looks awesome. It turns out the Mimic had been playing with us throughout the game, and we fell right into their plan. Let's turn the Mimic into our final monster. I immediately knew what I wanted to do for this design. Did anyone else wonder why we skipped over Chica previously? That's because this design is going to be a 2-in-1 of sorts. I wanted the Mimic to be inside of an MSM Mimic version of the Chica costume. I think it's cool to finally have the Mimic present in one of these designs. And I think it would be cooler to keep the Mimic endoskeleton accurate to the official design. And here's how the concept turned out. I think this design is going to be one of my favourites out of the Secret of the Mimic crew of monsters, which is very fitting for the penultimate Mimic monster. Going back to the idea of this monster, I thought it was clever to have the Mimic endoskeleton mimicking the Mimic from My Singing Monsters. I'm sure someone could make a tongue twister out of that. This mimicking of the Mimic will also carry over into their sound, but the design is definitely the star of the show for this monster. Some of you may have noticed that the concept had an armhole like the Chica costume art, but Mimic doesn't have any arms, and thankfully someone pointed this out to me. I don't think I'd want to see an MSM Mimic with extra arms. I really like the idea of the FNAF Mimic being the same Mimic endoskeleton design, so I started by drawing the Endo's head. After that, it was back to my usual formula of starting with the monster's head and working our way down. The MSM Mimic is very detailed, especially in areas like the head and the beak, so I made sure to have some reference images to help me out with my render. The more of this design I finish, the more unsettling it becomes, especially with the endoskeleton on the inside and the teeth I added to the beak. I don't know who's ordering this costume to a birthday party, and I'm glad I don't know them. I struggled with getting the yellow fur on the body to look as accurate as I was wanting, so I spent a good while drawing this area and going back and revising it. But in the end, I do think the yellow fur looks good enough. It was nice to go back to the green parts of the Mimic after that, as it's much more simplistic. A huge sigh of relief. Meet the Mimic. The Mimic mimicking Mimic. Confusing, right? This monster has "the" present in their name, just to make sure that we know that this isn't the actual MSM Mimic. And besides, I'm sure many people would confuse this for the actual MSM Mimic if they shared the same name. You can see the FNAF Mimic endoskeleton inside the costume too. Mimicking the Mimic comes with its ups and downs. On one hand, you get to live in this colourful parakeet costume, but on the other hand, you're left mimicking the cacars of the MSM Mimic. This monster will be poorly mimicking the Mimic's caca sounds, and they are also 3x3 in size. Here are the final sounds for this island.
Squawk! Caca! Caca! Squawk! Squawk! Caca! Squawk!
And there you have it! More Secret of the Mimic characters turned into monsters. Hopefully you enjoyed this part just as much as the previous episode, and make sure to let me know which of the 7 monsters are your favourite. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.